Hello and welcome to the RWBY and Beyond podcast. Today we are talking about RWBY Volume 5. I am not Mediocrity 4, I am Robert.
It feels good to be back. It is me, high-powered, and I look forward to this impromptu water cooler discussion of RWBY Volume 5. Post-mortem.
Hey, I'm Coop, seeker of memes, maker of dreams, creamer of jeans. What? If you guys know me, it's probably from the Discord. I hang around there a lot. And
posts the qualityest of memes.
And
most certainly.
Coop is my bro muse for my fanfic, which we've actually put some work in on it, and...
Oh, you have?
Yes,
Cool.
It just needs to be edited. We're
right.
once this chapter's done,
I'm happy to hear that, man.
Then it needs to be edited. You should hear what I've done. It's great.
I'm excited. I'm excited. All right, cool. All right, I'm Dude What the Heck, back to be continuously cynical as fuck about this volume, but I'm also happy because I have some of my fiance's spaghetti. I have a new watch, and I'm watching Overwatch League right now too because this.
Who would touch my spaghetti?
I'm Dude What the Heck. I forgot if I even said my name. Whatever. It's been a while.
I think you did.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
And don't call it a comeback. I've been here the whole time, back from the dead, and in the middle of a train wreck that is my life. I am Mediocrity 4, and I just want to extend a very special thank you to Robert for recording this. My computer is not available at the moment.
Yeah, I was supposed to use this for a video that I was trying to record with Kitty, but things happened. But anyway, so yeah, we're just doing the post-mortem last minute talk about
Rehab.
Yeah, Rehab of RWBY Volume 5. We're gonna discuss this train wreck of a volume. It started okay. I think we were kind of right at the beginning of everything. We said it felt like it was going to be a roller coaster. At first it felt like a roller coaster, and then it turned out to just end up being a train wreck.
Yeah,
those start out feeling the same, though. I understand how we made the mistake.
So let's kind of start off with the good of this volume. So I feel that
the first 4 episodes,
the opening act of this volume, which we can argue between where the volume episode falls off at episode 5 or if it's at the end of episode 4, but the first 4 episodes, and you could say chunks of 5, are solid. Sure, they have their issues, but they're like tiny in comparison to all the good stuff that happens in them. Because
yeah, I would not say chunks of episode 5. Like, that was probably the worst episode of the volume still. I'd say
is that the one where Oscar becomes the worst character in the history of the universe?
I thought that was back in volume 4.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been the worst
episode
character.
5 was where Oscar was asking was basically doing what Pyrrha did to John, and he was fishing for an answer, and he caught the wrong answer.
That's the one where he comes off. That's the one where he comes off as the biggest bitch and idiot in the universe, right? Where in the that episode's garbage. No, okay, so it's just the first 4 volumes because that episode was the worst episode in the history of the show.
Yeah, but I'd say like parts of 6 and most of 8 were also decent.
I don't know. I just feel like this entire volume was bad, and any parts of it that might have been good were ruined by how bad it was by the end of everything.
Yeah, and the thing is, it goes off the rails so quickly that it doesn't even get the benefit of being put in the same light. Because I thought about this, because as a huge Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, I also watched Legend of Korra, and Legend of Korra was honestly, in some ways, it was honestly a bigger disappointment than the Last Airbender movie because it was the same team for the most part that made Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it was terrible.
Yeah. And
the one volume that's the most universally hated is Volume 2 or Book 2, which started off great, and ended out terrible because they actually had a clever concept for the beginning of that one, and then they just threw it all away. This volume is so bad.
I actually like how Book 2 of Korra ended with the giant freaking kaiju fight.
Well, you would because you're the kind of person that says that RWBY should just be a Freak of the Week show.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that pretext.
I don't know. I thought that Legend of Korra 2 actually ended pretty strong. I liked that we got into the lore of the Avatar and how he came to be.
Oh, I hated that. No,
really?
That's exactly my problem with this.
Really?
Don't explain the lore.
Yeah, I didn't like that part either.
That's the same problem with Star Wars Episode 1, which we just talked about on our Star Wars podcast. Do not explain the lore. Don't explain the lore. Never explain the lore.
And if you want to explain the lore, do it in books that are basically nothing better than fan fiction right now.
Yes.
Or just don't explain
Which
the lore.
is the entire Star Wars expanded universe and most of what Disney has done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but anyway, this volume doesn't even have that benefit because the beginning of the volume seems strong because that was building of something, but it's made worse.
And then they're just standing there talking to each other.
Whereas at least with Korra Volume 2, Season 2. The beginning of the volume is still strong because the concepts and things they were exploring were still strong. Whereas in RWBY, this Volume 5, it looks like they were setting up for something interesting, and they never did anything interesting. So
I think a lot of that has to do with the momentum that they kind of maintained throughout all of Volume 4.
Yeah,
and the last part of Volume 3, last couple episodes of Volume 3 through Volume 4, and then the first 2-3 episodes of Volume 5 had a lot of really good forward momentum.
And then that momentum
and then it just fell off the cliff.
Yeah, so they squandered immediately.
So this is my, I think I've kicked this idea around too in our off broadcasting stuff too, is that and I think we'll all kind of agree with this, is so from what we all know is that Volume 5 had the shortest production time of pretty much all of the volumes that have come out.
Yeah, that's
from our understanding. So this volume feels like a steak where it's like, man, the crust is great on it, and the first little bit, whatever you cut into it, is a good medium rare.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you get into the center of it, then you actually get into the rare and some parts that are actually kind of underdone, and this might not be safe to eat.
Yeah, I don't think a steak is a good metaphor. I would go more with a pastry that isn't cooked all the way.
Yeah. It's when you first get into it, it's kind of warm, it's good, it's warm. Then you get in the middle, you're like, oh my gosh, this is cold. This was not finished. Yeah.
Yeah, I would go with more with a hot dog where the first third of the hot dog is pretty good, but then you get to the back and you realize the rest of it is rotten and the bun is moldy and stuff like that.
Or it's like mashed potatoes where it's the exterior is nice and soft, but then whenever you bite into it, they're oh, there's still hard chunky bits into it that haven't been done all the way.
I can't tell if these analogies are making me hungry or want to vomit.
I know.
I had steak and rice and baked carrots for dinner today, and it was good. It was really good.
I've pretty much survived entirely on chicken for the last 2 days.
I was going to say, are you trying to get some sick games going on there, media? When are we going to see you in a Speedo flexing like it's no one's business? Like you're in a JoJo anime.
Wait a minute.
When I hit 1 million subscribers.
Business. You mean flexing like it's everyone's business, because that's what flexing is.
Yeah.
Gotta flex on these kids.
Maybe when I hit 1 million subscribers.
There we go.
The rice gum content cop from
Yeah, gotta get at least 100,000 before I even consider something like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so that feels to be kind of the root of the problem.
Well, the root of the problem is that, I guess the root of the problem in the show is, and we've beaten this to death. The characters don't do anything. Nothing. The characters sit around and wait for the plot to come to them. It's padded, and it's just the worst thing is that I've complained about this for a long time because I'm just calling it because you guys did kind of come around to what I was saying by the end of the volume. Is I'm a hipster Ozpin hater, and I was right.
Yeah,
I was totally right, and I'm taking my credit. That Ozpin is terrible and he ruins the show because he's a crutch for the characters.
Well, I think I feel like he's become a crutch. this volume he became a crutch. In previous volumes, he was okay because he was inactive, but he had a pretty good reason for being inactive. Like, he was trying to keep the peace. He was trying not to flip everyone out. But this volume, it's like, it's done. Everyone's freaking out. The chaos is here. It's happening. There's no reason for you to be sitting around doing nothing.
Now, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's no reason for you to have them all sitting around doing nothing. Yeah, exactly. It's like you can't do nothing. You don't have this luxury anymore. And so now it just feels done. And again, and like we said, that's where the momentum just fizzled out. Because the heroes stopped doing things.
And that's what made Volume 4 better than Volume 5.
Exactly.
Yes, it was a little bit slower. Here's the thing with Volume 4. I do understand why people are wrong and think Volume 4 is the worst volume. I understand why they think that. They're still wrong, but I can at least understand why they think that. But it still felt like, but it's still better than this one because at least the characters were doing something, even if that something felt like nothing to those people who can't understand character progression.
Yeah.
Now there's stuff happening again, but that stuff that happens is not initiated by the characters at all, and that's kind of really important.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the villains are the ones that are pushing the plot, and even then you do it poorly.
Even if it's the characters making a mistake and affecting change, and that one making something happen and having to deal with it. They didn't even do that. They literally didn't do anything.
Yeah, the whole constantly making mistakes thing, that was what they were doing in like the first 3 volumes, and it was fine because it was like they were doing something, and yeah, they were screwing up, but they were at least trying to do something. But yeah, in this volume, it's just nothing. They're just sitting around waiting for things to happen.
Waiting for information to be spoon-fed to them, pretty much.
Yeah, basically. And then failing to really act on that information because they find out, because Ozpin and Crow know that something's up with Lionheart. They know something's like that. Not everything is on the up and up, and they still walk straight into his trap.
Yeah,
so, with no preparations.
Also, my biggest complaint about this volume is that when asked about it being a Boss Thing Save volume, they literally egged on that, and this is really not a Boss Thing Save volume.
Yeah, that was
the greatest season of TV in history, and I will fight anybody on that. And this is not that. This is one of the worst. So
because there's no mystery or intrigue or investigation or any of the other stuff we suggested in our
no wild goose chase. No.
Yeah,
and
the one thing they could have made a mystery, which would have been Lionheart's betrayal, they gave away right at the beginning. So
no, it's not just that.
Well, I mean, we knew that since Volume 4, but
exactly,
they see Lionheart once, and then the second time they are on screen together is when it's revealed. Like, so there's not a connection there.
There's no through line.
Yeah, and I feel like even with Lionheart's character, things just kind of fizzled out because he was, we need to wait before we get talking about maybe this is for later on, but with Lionheart, something I noticed is that he was looking really interesting. Like, he was looking like someone who was genuinely conflicted over what he had been doing, felt some real guilt, and, but admitted, I'm doing this because I'm afraid, I'm a coward. And then they just did nothing with it. He just, lures them into the trap, tries to kill Oscar, fails, tries to run for it, and gets killed. It's like, they do nothing with this, with what could have been a really interesting and conflicted villain.
Yeah, that is actually one of probably my biggest gripe with it, is because he was, as a character, kind of primed for a bit of a redemption arc, if you know what I mean. It would have been expected that was like be the way that they would take it.
If there's any show that can blue ball people on redemption arcs, it's RWBY.
Yeah,
Adam.
So here's the thing though, with like, this would be like ideally how the redemption arc would be like. So let's say that that Ironwood gave himself up and then wasn't hentai tentacle to
You
death.
mean Lionheart?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lionheart.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
I'm only one beer in, but this stuff's pretty stiff.
Okay.
So, I mean, this would be like the redemption where it's like, yeah, sure, I'm sitting in a prison cell though, but I mean, I spilled my beans and have potentially like damaged the criminal organization hive mind that I was working for.
Well, yes,
Or even death,
I
or redemption through death, or something like that. But
yeah, I would have expected a redemption arc that ended with him dead. That would have been the thing that would typically fit with a character like that, where he goes through a little bit of an arc. Yeah, he's a coward, but eventually he overcomes his fear and actually sacrifices himself to help the heroes. That's how you would usually do a character like that in literally any other show.
yeah.
But not RWBY, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, and here's a big problem with this volume is that it ends up being boring. Like, important stuff does happen in this volume,
but it all comes about in the most boring way possible.
Like, we get the Team RWBY reunion, we wrap up all the menagerie stuff, we basically defeat the White Fang once and for all. And then we get the Battle of Haven, we got all 4 of them. And then we got the Relic now. Cinder is at least defeated. I doubt she's dead. I really don't think she's dead.
She better not be dead.
I'm not even going to say I doubt, like, she's not dead.
Yeah,
but she's at least got her tail tucked between her legs on a much more grander level than she did at the end of Volume 3.
You could say Cinder has been. I'm trying to make a nice joke because she was put on ice because that, but
put on ice would have been.
She was given the cold shoulder.
She was put in deep freeze.
I think ever since that has happened, I'm pretty sure I have made a Cinder on ice joke in every single one of my videos that I've done since then.
And I think here's the thing though too, is it's worse than just being boring though. It was a very boring volume where stuff actually happened, but worse than that, everything that happened, again, first of all, was not gained through the character's action. It was gained through waiting. And it was not rewarding. Everything that was achieved felt like it was achieved in the most contrived and forced and bullshit way. So not only did the characters Ilya, Adam, Cinder, everything. Not only
I'd say the reunion.
You still there?
I'd say like the Weissing
give me my lesbian mode.
Yes. So that was great. But again, like Weiss still manages to be the only character that isn't ruined in this show. And as a Renor fan, I have to say even Renor is ruined. I'll get to that later. So the point is, like, the characters did not only did they not work for what they earned, it doesn't even feel like they earned it by accident, because everything was so contrived. Like, the worst. It's really tough for me to decide which is the worst scene, not in the volume, but in the entire show. Is it the Oscar and Ruby scene in the training room, or is it the scene where Adam gets nerfed worse than Mercy has just been nerfed in Overwatch? I don't know.
I'd go with the Adam one, personally.
I'd go with,
because I have to agree. I think the Adam one is worse, specifically because it was built up more.
Yeah, the Adam Blake confrontation has had build up before the show.
I would actually almost
really
go with
started.
neither one. I would almost worst scene of the volume. I would kind of want to say when Cinder and Raven made their deal.
Oh, that was pretty bad.
That
was pretty bad.
That was pretty bad.
That's how bad this volume is. We can't even decide which scene is the worst.
Yeah. And
let's be honest, this isn't just deciding the worst scene of the volume. This is deciding the worst scene of the show.
Yeah.
I can't think of a scene, even volume 2 does not have a scene that's actively that is as terrible as
The breach was
5 worst scenes.
Yeah, the breach was probably one of the worst things that happened, but it was at least it was entertaining.
There's at least 5 scenes in this volume that are worse than that scene, and that's wretchedly bad.
All of them, by the way, kind of sort of exhibit a separate yet equally egregious problem, if you ask me. Okay,
No,
so if you take the Oscar scene, we don't care about Oscar. Nobody cares about Oscar. That we have no reason to. He is literally just a vessel for Ozpin exposition.
Exactly.
He's basically he's basically the new Velvet, except for they're trying to pretend that he's actually affecting things.
Yeah.
They're trying to pretend that he's necessary.
Yeah, and that scene is probably the kind of thing that is trying to force him in to be necessary where he doesn't need to be. That could have been literally any other character in the show could have done that scene with RWBY better.
Wow, that's an excellent point. That is really true.
Imagine if John was there and he was like, "Hey, RWBY, how are you doing?" And then we could have, like, what was it called, Lancaster?
Yes.
Yeah.
Some Lancaster shipping going on.
I mean, it would have been perfect if she'd walked in on him, training to appear as video, feeling depressed again, and finally she's just like, okay, you can't keep doing this to yourself.
Oh my god, that would have been so good. I'm so mad right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to bring this to light.
We should either write RWBY or collaborate on our own, like, novel or something.
I know.
I want to. Yeah, I'm kind of working on something like that, but yeah.
We need to get Ellie the Dreamer in on that one too, also, because
I'm a third of the way through my own original novel right now.
Yeah,
so
I'm supposed to be. But
I am as well.
Anyway, the point I was going to try making, and this actually comes from a comment on my most recent video, which was Volume 5 worth it? And this is a comment from Regeneration, but it's spelled like really, really weirdly.
Mm-hmm.
They asked, like, I have a question. What is worse, a filler volume or a boring volume? And I said, boring is worse every time. Do some creative things with filler. You can focus on characters.
Coach, you beat a
Nora. Character studies on precisely where a character's head is at. Naruto does that all the time. But boring is the worst thing any show or movie can be.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's like things happened. Yeah, and there's like things happened this volume, and like I'm not necessarily upset with the things that happened, but it's the way that they happened that was just so boring. Or some of the things happened too late, Jean's semblance. Some of the things happened too early, Ilya's face turn. So.
Oh god,
Ilya needed to sit in like a prison cell for like a volume before she came back.
And Blake shouldn't forgive her that quickly.
I am of the opinion that she just didn't need to exist at all.
That too.
No, I agree. I think most of us, if not all of us, would agree with that.
See, I would agree with that, except perhaps the best, well, not the best scene, but one of the actually good scenes in Volume 5. One of the scenes that I would actually say is kind of good is the reveal of her motivation.
You mean her coming out of the closet, or
the coming out of the closet.
Like that, and also the scene in the Blake character short.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah, that
like that, and the Blake character short. Anything with Ilya in the Blake character short, and anything with Ilya in Volume 5, Episode 8, where
I just remembered
those are both really good scenes that we would not have.
Well, here's
without Ilya.
True, but here's
that's true. But I think it was Coop who pointed out: is it worth it though? Was Ilya worth all of that?
Yeah.
No.
And I had to say no, she's not. So.
And I think we said at the beginning of this one that
about Oscar.
Yeah, and I think we said at the beginning of this that Ilya's whole little, that black trailer, it should have been about Adam's motivation. What happened to turn him to the white thing? What happened to get him on his path? I think that was you, Media, actually, but. And also,
it probably would have been if the writers weren't such gutless cowards when it came to Adam.
Like if the Blake trailer was literally like a campfire moment between like Blake and Adam, and then Adam's just like talking about stuff. Like maybe this is like the young, fresh-faced Blake before she's gone full freaking ISIS tier into the White Fang. Like that would have been fine.
Careful with those ISIS references.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't want to get you banned from the UK.
Oh yeah. Oh wait, it's a good thing I don't live in that third world hellhole of a country where you get arrested for shit posting too hard by making your dog, lift up its paw.
What?
Oh
yeah, but
hashtag free count Dankula. Okay, we're gonna drop this subject before your channel gets deleted from YouTube.
Okay, but something else I noted, or I don't know, what annoyed me about the way that they did Ilya's face turn is that, like we said, her motivations, that she reveals during the Black Trail are fantastic. Like she's, they're pretty much she's the most motivated member of the White Fang that we know of. She has the best reason for being a part of them, and that just goes out the window because Blake yells at her really hard and looks at her really hard. Like, that was just it was awful. It just did not...
Can we talk about a character that, like, gets rewarded for acting like a total child? That's Blake. It's so annoying how she is...
Yeah.
I don't want to get us in trouble again, but she is the perfect example of encouraging SJW behavior. Because she acts like a total child. She doesn't actually give any evidence behind anything she says. She's pretty much always wrong, and yet she manages to affect change.
Yeah, and it's like she well, yeah. So
as far as like that goes,
go for it.
I'd say that like the quintessential scene to understanding that is the one where she basically outright says that she describes people within one word in her mind.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's go ahead.
Yeah, that's so true.
Adam is wrath. Look at me, my words.
Autistic tendency.
So deep.
I remember how much I hated that. I remember how much I hated when she did that.
Yeah,
because they think that made her interesting,
and this is the girl
that was good writing. That's the part that I don't understand.
Yeah, because on face value, like it's a toss up between like Blake and Weiss. Would be if we had to like give someone the award for most mature at like surface level, like on paper, not like as in actual having stuff going, like seeing the episode. Like if we saw the storyboard, it's like, it's kind of a toss up between Weiss and
Yang.
And do you think actually, Yang is pretty mature, all things considered.
At this point, especially.
Yeah,
because Yang is basically taking the role of teen mom.
Indeed,
and she's good at it, but yeah.
Yeah, Blake, I mean, I love Blake's character. But mainly just because, like, I like the way that she looks, and I have a weak spot for cat ears.
It's okay, nobody's perfect.
I feel you, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is that if they had her say those things, and have that come back around to be proven that that's not a good way to think about people, then that would be good, because that's what smart writers would do. But no, these writers actually think that that's good and that's okay.
They actually believe
it's good enough is the problem. They think that's good enough.
I'm still holding out hope that that's what Brian Michael Bendis is doing with Ironheart.
Yeah.
It's like
we can talk about.
Oh god! Every time Bendis is brought up on 4chan's code, people just cringe in fear and anger.
Yeah, and I almost want to point out the fact that Blake has that line of, defining people by one word. This is the same girl who in Volume 1 insisted that there is no such thing as pure evil. This is the same, it's like that, and yet she's going in, labeling people by one word. Also, this, like we said, she's a total SJW, acts like she's the, is all against, discrimination and stuff like that, and yet she thinks it's okay to, slap labels on people. It's like, I don't know. Like that's part.
Blake has a problem of do as I say, not as I do.
Kind of, yeah.
Pretty much.
And I can't remember if I've mentioned this before, but Overly Sarcastic Productions did a really cool video where they talked about like Mary Sue's and stuff like that, and they talked about what actually makes someone a Mary Sue. Right?
That was a while back. Actually,
okay.
Now that I think about it.
That was what introduced me to their channel.
Yeah, but they make a really good point where they say that what makes someone a Mary Sue is, and they're like, basically what they say that is that, you know, Mary Sues are not a result of a bad character, they are a result of bad writing, and when the writing basically conspires to make everything work out and to make the entire world basically revolve around a Mary Sue. And that's kind of what Blake has become at this point. Everything just works out for her. Everything just, you know, the White Fang make terrible decisions so that her story can move on. And so that like Ilya just randomly decides to turn face so that Blake can get back to, you know, so that Blake can succeed with her stupid plan of getting these civilians to fight the White Fang for her. Everything is just, you know, revolving around her to make things work out for her. So it's like,
and she doesn't earn any of it. She has not earned anything.
Yeah.
Hey guys, go for it. Guys, I have an idea. Hey, what if Ilya's face turn was whenever Blake was already captured and she was being shipped off to Adam's sex dungeon?
Pretty sure we suggested that.
I'm pretty certain we did too. Also, we're just gonna bring it up. That's what should have happened.
Yeah.
Would have had more consequence available, so it would have made kind of more sense, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, have discount Spider-Gwen and.
Oh god, those characters.
Actually capture Blake, and then I don't know if I'm on the. I personally would rather have. I would prefer like that all the parents survive, but then they still come to like they use this as a rallying cry to be like, oh, they've kidnapped my daughter, blah blah blah. Let's go to Mistral.
They've taken the hobbits to Isengard.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh man. Let's. I mean, we're kind of getting bogged down on the.
We're going all over the place here. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, well, yeah, do we want to try and get back on top to this agenda that we got here, or what do we want to do here? You guys still with me? Or?
So let's.
Looks like we're having some technical difficulties on my end.
Okay, I will agree.
What about the characters teleporting around that last scene though?
That's every episode of RWBY though. This is par for the course.
They did that in the new Clavi fight too.
Here's
guys, I think I lost you guys for a few minutes there. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
We talked about getting bogged down with Blake.
Yeah, so we're on to action.
We're on to action.
We've lost nothing important.
Yeah,
true.
And I think, it pains me to say this, but I think the Volume 5 action was actually better than Volume 4. And here's the thing.
In some ways. Maybe in some ways. But
well, okay, let's just run through these action scenes.
It's very difficult to judge it on its own. It's very difficult to judge it on its own. So I can't say you're wrong because it's so hard for me to separate the action from the rest of this volume specifically.
And the context in which the action is happening. So this is my humble opinion.
There was a lot of bad action in Volume 4, though. There was a lot of bad action in Volume 4.
So this is my humble opinion. So I actually do like the action of this volume. What action that we did get, though, which was we had the Lancer...
I want to run through all of them from Volume 4 and 5.
Okay, go for it.
So first we had the Geist fight.
Terrible.
Which I thought was a lot of fun, had some cool moments, but it was a mess. It was just a disaster
Of
in
animation?
in terms of direction. Mostly direction, not even so much animation, but direction.
Yeah.
Direction.
And editing and all that stuff.
Why didn't Jean borrow a sword and shield from the village?
Yeah.
I'm sure they had some spare ones lying around somewhere.
Why did Rin turn into a helicopter?
Yeah.
He's like, peace! Swash, 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 swash!
He was doing that one Street Fighter character does.
I must return to my planet. My people.
You mean Blanca?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of them that do stuff like that. Blanca does the like Sonic the Hedgehog role.
What's the one BDSM leotard eye lady? Doesn't she have like a weird like spinny
You're
kick?
thinking of someone that's someone from Soul Calibur.
No. She's from
Ivy?
She's in Street Fighter. No, well, yeah,
You're thinking Ivy from Soul Calibur.
No.
I thought you were talking
No,
about.
I know
She's the foot fetish chick.
Yeah, he's talking.
I know
about
Chun-Li has the helicopter kick.
Yeah, Chun-Li
It's not
has the
Chun-Li,
helicopter kick.
it's-
I think I know who you're talking about,
Okay,
though. They
maybe
did
we
the.
should move on from this a little bit.
I think I know who you're talking about.
We need to have our own shitty, uninformed, unknowledgeable Evo recap podcast, and they get flamed by the whole fighting game community.
Can we do a Evo recap? Because I'm gonna watch the whole thing.
Sure.
I already took the day off on Sunday, so I am super down for that. I'm pushing for that. I do know a fuckload about Melee, so I can actually speak intelligently on that.
I'll just watch
And
this.
I know
I'll
a
just
decent amount about Tekken.
I'll listen to the Super
Alright, we're
Best
good
Friend
to go.
cast, and then their opinions will be like fact to me. So that's gonna be it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I only.
I know
Anyway,
Mass Effect.
so Karen-
not...
Yeah.
Mortal
But so
Kombat.
back to the
What
action.
the hell?
Back to the action.
So we've gotten through one fight so far.
I'm tired. Sorry.
So then he had the Sea Dragon fight, which
Terrible.
was it was so derivative of so many other things. It felt like there wasn't any imagination that went into it.
I do appreciate
then,
that it shows off the normal citizenry being able to actually, like, you know, not be like useless
Headway,
when fighting the
yeah.
game. Yes,
but
I did
also-
appreciate that.
I think that it had some
But
good
I hit-
character
yeah.
moments
I
between.
hate
Sun
the
was
entire
fun.
idea of we've never seen a Grim this size before. Gets taken out by two kids in a cannon.
Or
Yeah.
Shiver Me
Our
Timber.
villains, everyone.
Yeah.
Little did we know that would be very indicative of Volume 5.
Yeah, pretty much.
That
Yeah.
sea captain guy was dope, though. Okay.
He was.
Yeah.
Oh god, I like the
and then after
freaking meme reviews
that
that
was...
freaking Celtic Phoenix did. He's like, "Whoa, calm down, pop a fucking what's it called with me and listen to freaking what's it called in my chill out room."
I like how Pythar doesn't understand like the hipster references. That's the parts he forgets. The stoner hipster references are the two parts he can't remember.
Yeah. But,
I'm assuming the
then after
answers
that
were like
was-
edible and Bob Marley or some shit like
No,
that.
it was like
Something like
take a
that.
Xanax or something with me and chill
Oh, okay.
out. And it wasn't like Bob Marley, but it was like a slow like rock chill song. I need to fire up the video. I don't know.
Modest Mouse.
I guess
Sublime?
maybe. Dude, it could have been Sublime. But back to the action. So there was it was
and
the
then
Sea
after
Dragon.
that was the Tyrion stuff, which was fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tyrion
that was
was good.
Yeah.
And
I think
by far the
everybody-
best like action possibly in the entire show.
Yeah.
Well, it had it all. It had the stakes to the narrative. It had the character interactions. It had people.
It actually made the
know.
villains look like a credible threat for once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tyrion
And,
is now the only credible villain on the show. Just
I know. And
pointing
he's
that
the
out.
one he's the one who's the most or the second most injured right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we
Depending
can't- and then we
depending
don't
on the
even know-
mortality
and
of
here's the
somebody.
other thing: we don't even know how credible Watts is. You could say he's more
That's true.
credible by not taking part in the debacle of Cinder's
Yes.
plan.
Yes.
Even
Yeah.
Hazel got kind of nerfed in a weird way.
Well, yeah,
I don't
because he
think-
got knocked out. Because he got knocked through a wall by a move that Tyrion blocked with his tail.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah.
What's that thing about consistency and all that they're not good with?
Continuity.
Continuity.
Wasn't that a question that you asked them?
Wasn't that something that they answered with me that they said they were going to fix and then they didn't?
No, that was pacing. You're thinking of
Pacing.
pacing.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so the other thing that they said they were going to fix that they didn't fix.
Yeah.
Because the spice pacing was also garbage.
Yeah.
How many eye daggers and eye lasers were being stared at you whenever you walked back to your seat?
Oh, it was a lot, but I thought it was great because I knew all those people were less intelligent than me.
Why do you assume you're the smartest in the room?
There's plenty of people that are more intelligent than me. I'm not trying to say that. The point is that none of those people were in that room.
Silver linings, huh?
That's the point, okay?
So you're the one brainwashed. No, not brainwashed. Everyone else was the brainlit Wojak, and then you are the actual one that had the intelligence sitting in your chair made out of your brain matter, while also playing 5-dimensional underwater backgammon with your brain clone.
I mean, that's the only slightly negative question anybody's even bothered to fucking ask them in all of their that I can think of.
Yeah.
That didn't get shot down right away.
And I stole that question from media.
Yep.
That's right, you did.
I stole the question from somebody, and I was still the most intelligent person in that room.
The perfect crime.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, carrying on with the fights, and then after that, well, there was the rooftop fight, which is garbage, and
there was the training between Tai and Yang, which was okay.
I like the same episode, and pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, the actual choreography of that one, I still like. Yeah.
And then Tai goes over to the mating tree, and he's like, "This is where you were conceived, Yang."
Yeah.
And then
we are not letting that one go.
No, we'll never let that go.
And then after that was the new Klavi fight, which was well written and nothing else.
Yeah, it was well written. The action could have been much better.
And John should have gotten his semblance at that time.
The Renora stuff in that was amazing.
Yeah.
So here's the question.
And then going into Volume 5, I'm not done with the fights though.
Sorry.
In Volume 5, you had the Lancer fight, which was solid.
Yeah.
Then you had Yang versus the Mooks versus the Bandit Mooks, which was a little disappointing, but I think we were way harsher on that fight than we should have been.
I don't.
Especially with the rest of the volume in hindsight now.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on that because that was yeah,
maybe.
Just like,
I still think I'll agree with
I
that.
think the Bandits should have been a bigger part of the volume than they were.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, I guess because I think what me is right about is that the problem isn't the fight scene itself; it's kind of everything around the fight scene that was the problem.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, and then what was after? Then after that, we had that big lull because I was in episode 4. And we had episode 5 didn't have any action. Episode 6, I believe, had the Ruby and Oscar training scene together, which was garbage and ruined Aura and Semblance forever, for all time.
Midichlorians.
It could be whatever we want it to be. It could be space juice.
It's whatever.
Fart dust. Whatever.
It's whatever Miles and Carrie needed to be. Shut up.
No, I wish it was midichlorians because midichlorians are a concrete explanation to something. This was just vagaries that explained nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
And actively dismantled one of the not just a couple of the niftiest things that they had done visually in the entire show, which I addressed in my was Volume 5 worth it video with Weiss.
So what we're saying is that's even worse than midichlorians. That's impressively bad.
Yeah, that's
an
impressive level of terrible. That's right there.
Yeah, you always have to give him a hit for that one.
I know.
That's an epic kind of fail.
Yeah, pro
tip for the writing staff: if you're going to explain something, actually explain it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just don't explain it. Both are perfectly fine.
As we said before, just don't explain it. Don't explain the magic.
Yeah.
Don't show who's behind. Don't show who the wizard is.
I have magic, and I just ran out of magic juice, so I can't use my magic anymore. Let me just sip this 0-calorie Monster energy drink here, and then I'll be able to rip and tear again.
Yeah.
Then, episode 7 didn't have any fights. Episode 8 had, a single punch being thrown, with Blake being ambushed and stuff. Then episode 9, I don't think, had any fights. And then
we had the Sun and Ilya fight, which was amazing.
Which was all good. like that whole thing. Like there's some dumb stuff in the fight at the Belladonna house, but
like this
really
was episode
like
7.
just standing there for 30 seconds straight and not doing anything.
That was in episode 9.
Oh,
okay. That was like leading into the fight.
You know what would be the great meta thing though? Is like there's actually no stakes, and this all is just like it's like RWBY is just a show like within a show, and it's just like wrestling, and that's why they stand around and stuff whenever like things are happening because they gotta like they gotta do their smack talking before the actual fight begins.
Hang on, gotta cut our promo first. Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what Dragon Ball Z is, though.
Kind of.
And I like wrestling.
It's like
same here.
Wrestling if it was all real and they really were just that like
bad.
What is that wrestling term?
That like,
it's called kayfabe.
Kayfabe?
Yeah. If there were no kayfabe.
Yeah. I mean, technically, kayfabe is already dead, but yeah.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Z is basically wrestling if all of the overdramatic melodrama stuff in wrestling was
real stakes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, a whole dimension just got deleted.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Dragon Ball Super is ending like in 2 days.
Yeah.
And then then that rolls into like the 3 episode long battle for Beacon fight, which they literally, if Miles and Carrie's just reenacted like the autistic flailing between the prisoners and the police officers for the White Fang bit, this volume would have been improved, but no, it's literally like 8 random dudes versus an entire village worth of people.
Yeah.
And not only that, but there's some fun stuff in that. Like a lot of what Hazel was doing was fun, even if he was just literally Bane.
No, I feel he's more Armstrong, but instead of Nanomachine's son, it's Dust Crystal's son. I also used to play in the.
I was also Full Metal Alchemist Armstrong, which would have been.
Yeah, that's where my mind went.
Dude, if no joke, if he was doing like alchemy bullshit, because I literally just got done watching all of Brotherhood, not like a few days ago.
No, like Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist is actually going to end up being what Watts does.
Dude,
I would love that.
Oh man, I'll tell you.
Can I bring you guys down again by pointing out that the RWBY writers are not that good?
I'll tell you what.
Really know.
Now, keep in mind, I don't even know who this character is. I don't even know who this character is from Full Metal Alchemist that you're talking about because I haven't gone that far. But I've seen the first 11 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist, and I can already guarantee you that the writers from RWBY are not that good.
So here's the thing.
Well, let's see. No, is it Brotherhood that you've seen, or
the joke is
Brotherhood?
No,
I'm doing the thing media told me to do, which is like watch the first 2 seasons of regular, and watch the start of the second season of.
Well, the joke is that it's the same voice actor. It's Chris Sabat plays Armstrong, and he also has a mustache.
And All Might, yeah.
He also voices All Might, but All Might doesn't have a mustache.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, Hazel doesn't have a mustache either.
No, but Watts does. That was the joke.
Watts is voiced by Chris Sabat, who also voices All Might and Alex Louise Armstrong.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, Alex's sister, man, that's a hot piece of ass right there.
She'll kick your ass if you tell her.
Like it.
I let her use me all she wants.
All right, if you're cool with it.
All right, I think we should.
We're gonna lose high power if we don't get off this subject.
Face rubbing is going on right now.
There was talk of an agenda. What happens to that?
Well, you had Raven versus Cinder as well, which
was fun to watch.
Really, really dumb fun.
Yeah, no, the Raven versus Cinder fight was turn your brain off and enjoy the flashy lights. And
so it was the first 3 volumes again. Well, the first 2 and a half.
Like, no joke. That fight was like this. It feels like Monty Ohms was had been resurrected to animate that fight scene.
Yeah, which is a good and a bad thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a double-edged sword, and like
both edges are aimed at the throat of the viewer, and they.
So here's the thing, though. I watched the video.
Your grim arm can't be protected by aura.
So cut it off.
Did not cut it off when she could.
Yeah, I saw that from Fat Man's video. Yeah, we pointed out
I also did a bit like that.
So here's a thing. I actually saw a video recently where I think it was posted on like RWBY Republic, and it was a combination of scenes from volumes 4 and volumes 5 of all of the things that hinted at Raven being a a maiden.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see if I can find the video again real quick.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I was okay with her being a maiden because it did seem like, when that happened, it kind of. I think I said this in a podcast before, but it kind of dawned on me something that Shane Newville said in this letter, that Volume 3 was originally supposed to start off with Raven attacking Pyrrha, and I think the purpose of that scene, when that scene was written, was to be a hint that Raven was a maiden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right, so I believe that they did have it planned at least that early. Yeah. Like, as soon as they came up with the idea of the maidens, they're like, okay, who are the maidens? Let's have Raven be a maiden, and that's the different direction that they took her in after first revealing her in Volume 2.
Yeah,
like they took her in a different direction, and that was the direction that they took her in, and that's how early on in the process was. My only problem with that scene is the "I am."
Yeah, the line delivery.
The line delivery.
Yeah,
and the thing is, I gotta admit, Shane Newville, I still think he's kind of an idiot, and his letter was like a whiny cry for attention. But he's looking more and more slightly right with each, with this volume. He's looking a little bit more correct. I can't really argue that.
Yeah, and again, this was another one of those things where, again, I'm okay with them doing it. I'm perfectly fine with the idea of Raven being the Spring Maiden and stuff like that. The problem is the execution, the way it's introduced. The fact that they haven't adequately explained how old or how young you have to be, and the fact that they recently said, we decided that the cutoff age is 30, does not help because it would imply that Raven was pregnant with Yang while she was still in Beacon. And so
the Discord arguments that have been had over this exact subject.
Yeah.
But anything can work if you do it right. But they didn't. So
yeah, exactly. It's like they didn't explain it right.
Just say 40.
Yeah.
Like, it's not rocket science. Like, you don't.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's like, or like what High Powered said a little while ago when he said, it's when they can no longer, or the cutoff is when they can no longer have kids, when they're no longer fertile. And I added the idea there that they can use that for a little bit of character development for Glinda by saying that she was born sterile. Boom. And that's why she teaches. Like, I thought that would be a really cool idea. But yeah.
And that's why she's hooked up with Ironwood, because he can't get people pregnant anyways, because he lost his Venus. But he did upgrade to twin-linked hydraulic piston cocks.
Probably.
And they could always go back and change the age limit right now, because
forward to the retcon.
And honestly, I wouldn't mind.
We talked about this.
Was announced in an AMA. Like, come on, like that is that's the same kind of forum where they said that all semblances are unique,
and
without exception.
Or all the bullshit that J.K. Rowling has said on Twitter since she stopped writing Harry Potter. Seriously, shut up! You're ruining the magic.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't, if they haven't set it down in stone in the actual show yet, I would say that it's perfectly up for retconning at any point.
Yeah.
So, take nothing they say. Well, take everything they say with a grain of salt.
As Robert and I think concluded together with when we talked at I think the last podcast, wasn't it, Robert, where we basically agreed that the only way they can save the series is by retconning a fuckload of stuff in the next volume.
Yeah, basically by having the villains all come back and just kick all the ass, cripple Oscar and Crow, and just basically kind of reset things.
Yeah, they have no choice at this point but to retcon, because if
I would rather. I agree with you all there, but this is what I would rather them do is they're trying to solve the problem in Atlas, but then they were in Vacchio fucking shit up.
But it still doesn't make the villains actually formidable against the heroes. That's the problem.
That's the problem with my statement there.
Yeah. So I think there's no choice but to retcon, and I would. The first time I've ever wanted somebody to actually retcon, like, where they really have to retcon, or else I'm kind of done with the show.
They have no choice in the sense of they have no choice if they want it to be
good.
Any good.
Well, no. Here's the thing, though, about RWBY is that they've given us so many contradictory pieces of information throughout these last couple of years that no matter what they do, it's going to retcon something out of existence.
And
sure, let's just hope they choose the right things at this point, which they probably won't, but let's hope they do.
Yeah, don't hold.
I mean, we're bagging on them, but they have done decent stuff in the past. I mean, Weiss from Volume 3 on, especially in Volume 4, was a very well-written character.
Mm-hmm. She still is.
She still is, and she still is one of the...
Even early on, she was still pretty good. Like, she was a pain. She was annoying. You didn't really like her, but that was okay. It was kind of the point, but it worked.
Fine. She had somewhere to go.
When they actually bothered to do anything with Renora, it's done very well.
Yeah.
So, and they've done, one-on-one scenes and interactions well before, and even... And some of them are poor, but I mean, it's a weird combination of, like, that scene with Weiss and Yang was amazing, but we knew it was going to mean that Yang forgave Blake too quickly, and that's exactly what fucking happened.
Pretty much.
Probably,
not good. So, like, but that scene was great, and it's more of Weiss being the best character in the show by far, but then it also ruins stuff at the same time. That's the weird thing that these writers do, is, like, they can even make good scenes bad as a result in some way. I don't. It's impressive.
Yeah, like the Batman Falling said this with in Volume 4, you had the Yang training scene, which introduced, like, this character flaw and this flaw in her fighting style, and Ty actually, like, stepping in and doing something he probably should have done a long time ago. But then in the Yang character short, which takes place way earlier, she's doing just fine.
Yeah, it seems to. I
would say
I kind of disagree with that, because Tai Yang's whole argument to her in Volume 4 is that you overuse your semblance, you rely on it too much, and in the Yang short, we do see her rely too much on her semblance, basically jump into the Ursa's mouth, so I kind of disagree with that, but that does raise another issue of, I thought that once a person's aura was gone, their semblance stopped working. But apparently not.
That was the thing. Yeah, that was another. Yeah. That was. What
but he did also say that she seemed to be that, it did seem to contradict what Ty tells her, and I kind of disagree with that. But I disagree with that aspect. But yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like the whole ability to. It's not show don't tell. It's more like they don't really show the things they are telling.
Yeah,
it's not. I mean,
Jean's improvement is the perfect example of that. They keep telling us that he's improved, but they never actually show it. His most badass moment is still decapitating the Ursa Major in Volume 1.
Oh, that's sad when it's so true.
Yeah.
But,
that whole character has been mishandled the entire volume, especially after the previous one. I mean, and
Yeah, I know. It's weird that like Jean was seemingly improving as a character, at least, especially in Volume 4, and then in Volume 5, he's gone right back in the dumpster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of his stuff in Volume 5 is really indicative of a wider problem with Rooster Teeth in general, with all of their stuff.
Which is...
And that's how kind of gutless the writers are, and how much they try pandering to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
Like the only reason why Cinder fought Jean is because everyone wanted Jean to get revenge.
Kind of.
He doesn't even get revenge.
And then Jean gets punked and gets someone injured in the process.
Well, I feel...
What's the first word is whenever you're about to like be like, oh, look at me, I'm cool hero man, I'm about to sacrifice myself. Man, you know, I'm about to sacrifice myself. But you know what'll really suck is you not killing me and throwing a spear through a chick I had a crush on once. Oh shit, that actually just happened. Fuck.
Yeah, and I mean, she didn't even know about that crush. So,
well, and that's another example of why I actually immediately after you've gone over all the action, I actually don't think Volume 5's action is better than Volume 4. I'd say it's about the same, because that fight between Cinder and Jean is technically terrible because she should have killed him in one move.
She could have killed him at any time.
Yeah,
anytime.
Yeah, she could have, and she should have.
Well, what I think they should have done is actually show that Jean has actually gotten better, had him do better in that fight than Pyrrha did against her. Show that the characters have actually improved, damn it!
Yeah,
what would have been a good thing? Yeah. It would have been better if they revealed... the reveal
it would have been better if they did anything but what they did do, which was just have a fight that wasn't even real. It would have been better if
they didn't have Cinder fight Jean at all, and they would have had her fight RWBY.
Or, I was...
Or even
have Jean fight Vernal.
Yeah, or something like that. Or have Tyrion show up, have Jean fight Tyrion, and find out what Tyrion's interest in Jean was. Establish Tyrion as Jean's nemesis. Ugh.
I killed my father killed your father, and that's why we hate each other.
I don't know, something like that.
No.
Because that's just adding another character into what is already the most clusterfucked fight
I guess maybe.
Guys, I just realized something that they did well in this volume.
Uh-oh.
What?
They didn't visit Pyrrha or Jean's families.
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I would have disliked that
I definitely would have disliked that idea.
Well, it would have been more just talk.
I think that's probably going to be next volume.
Exactly. Yeah. Coop knows what I'm on about.
I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think
they're still just standing there and they're still just talking.
Yeah.
If they're going to do that, they should probably save that for the next one, if they're going to do that at all. If they decide to, I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be.
Everyone keeps asking to see Jean's family. I personally would be fine if all we meet is like his dad or something like that, or or like he just gets or like he just calls home at some point and we just get like a glimpse.
And we just hear a voice actor.
Yeah, we don't need a giant arc family reunion. Like, not to my knowledge anyway. We don't need it. Maybe I don't know, but yeah.
Here's the thing. I'd be more confident making a prediction about that sort of thing if I knew how they were going to react to all the criticism that this one has received. Because,
well, what criticism? I'm pretty sure most people think this is like the best volume ever. Although I get the feeling that really,
no, it's been a lot more. It's been a lot more negative this time around than.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at any like analytics or stuff, but I'm pretty sure this was the least successful volume yet.
Okay,
I think there's some people that I know. There's still some people that think that Volume 4 is worse.
Yeah, I'm thinking like RWBY Amino right now. Looks like there are still people who don't want to. Although I get the feeling that those people are the people who really, really, really don't want to admit anything good. Like they were determined to hate Volume 4. They didn't want to admit that it did anything good, so they were therefore determined to claim that Volume 5 was the best thing ever, even though it wasn't.
But I still think even on Republic, the general, I would say that people either think that Volume 5 is the worst or they still don't like it.
Gotcha.
Overall.
Yeah.
But
or at least they are skeptical of
Yes, they're skeptical
Yeah.
of next
There
movie.
have been a
that's
lot
the
more
that's the
vocal-
consensus I've seen. And
Okay.
okay, so I'm gonna get into kind of why that is because we'll address this later. But the worst thing is just how much they nerfed the villains,
Yeah.
which we've already talked about at length. But I think because that could work for someone, I can see people liking that. Those people are
Stupid.
not the kind of people I would want to associate with.
Yeah.
But they are people and they do have a right to an opinion. The reason why this volume just does not work, and it's something I don't see a whole lot of people addressing, and I haven't really had a chance to really opine on this aspect yet. And it's RWBY. It's Team Ranger. It's because all that other stuff can work.
Mhm. I think you're cutting out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not.
it's
I'm not
on the
totally
same.
sure.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because all that other stuff, it's still on the same level as other stuff RWBY has done. The show has done.
Mm.
But RWBY, the paragon hero, the person who's supposed to be kind of like the Captain America of this group, not doing anything for the entire volume is unforgivable. Like
Yeah.
I mentioned this in our Last Jedi podcast with
Wait,
the
say that again. Say that again. I couldn't hear. I cut out. I couldn't hear you.
RWBY, like it's the fact that she didn't do anything in this volume was unforgivable.
Oh yes, absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And I
mean,
said
the
this in
one thing
I
you
s-
could say she kind of did is that talk she had with Oscar, which I don't care
Was-
about
Yeah.
Oscar, so who cares?
And that scene was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so I said this in our Last Jedi podcast where we were talking about Canto Bight, and I was kind of comparing the Canto Bight subplot, side mission, side quest bit in Last Jedi to the divergent plot lines in episodes 2 and 3
Mhm.
of Star Wars. And I said that, like, honestly, it worked a lot better in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith because it actually tied together with the main plot and the subplots all tied together into one kind of cohesive, like you can see where they were going with it and why those scenes existed. Whereas the Canto Bight scene is going to go down as the worst bit in the Star Wars saga because it doesn't tie in, because it's kind of just a side quest that doesn't really
Go anywhere.
it's not
I think we lost you again, media.
Yeah, I think we lost media
Yeah.
again.
You're,
Oh boy. Normally
I
this
can
is
still I can still hear you guys.
okay.
you're back.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah. And sorry,
That's
my
the
finger
casino.
slipped there. My finger slipped there. Yeah, Canto Bight is the casino planet.
The casino. Oh
And
god.
that's why a lot of people that's one of the big reasons why Last Jedi has been so raked
Reviled.
over the coals since it came out.
Yeah.
Yep, that's my least favorite part of the movie by a long shot.
Yeah.
I haven't
I would have,
actually
I
seen
would
it
have,
because
I would have had
everybody
a
was just
truly,
dumping
I would
on
have
it.
had a very strongly overall positive outlook on the movie had it not been for all of that crap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll
There'd
check
still
it
be
out.
problems with it. There would still be problems with it, but overall, it would have made a huge difference if they hadn't done that.
Yeah, but
You would have had
that's
you would
the
have had a
major
much-
thing.
For the people that don't hate what they did to Luke, like I don't hate what they did to Luke.
Yeah.
For people like
neither.
me, it would have been much easier to argue for what they did to Luke if it wasn't for the fucking casino shit.
Mhm.
Because then it's just like, but with the casino shit, it's like all the people that do hate what they did looks like, well, look at this. They clearly had no idea what they were doing with the entire movie. It's like, well, I don't really have an argument against that because I also hated all of that. I think
Yeah,
what,
but that's the level that Ruby Rose is working on in Volume 5.
yeah, and
That
she's
just
the main
pointlessness.
Yeah, and this is bad for people who are listening to this podcast that haven't listened to all of our other podcasts. And if you haven't, you should, because you could binge watch all of those podcasts over a couple days. They're great. We're amazing. Media used to be from what I remember, one of the biggest RWBY defenders.
I still am
here.
as far as her personality goes.
She was a good character until this damn volume. Yeah,
and you know it's really funny, guys. That one of the guys that we've interacted with on the Facebook groups actually think this volume did a lot to improve her character, which I don't understand how you think that. But
how can you improve something when it does nothing? When
I know, don't.
Because she had that night. Because of that line where she said, "Oh, it's because yeah, I'm fighting because Pyrrha and Penny died." It's like we already knew that's why she was fighting. And last volume, she said that she was fighting for the people who hadn't died, who were still there. So that was actually a very contradictory line.
Yeah, and that's what I told
didn't
him.
think about that part.
Several large, big think emojis are going on right now.
I explained to the guy that what she said was stuff we already knew, and then he said it wasn't, and yeah, so
it's like she's made it very clear in her actions. She wept when Penny died. She freaked and activated her powers when Pyrrha died. We know that she's fighting because of them, and again. She did say at the end of last volume in that admittedly very long monologue but still she did say, "I'm not doing this for the people that have died. I'm doing this for the people that haven't died." So now she's gone, and that was great. It was just
yes, that was good.
It just got lost in the shuffle because that monologue was too long. But that was still a really good line that they basically just retconned out, and I'm pretty sure it's because they had so many people complaining about like, "Oh, RWBY doesn't have enough motivation." It's like, yes, she does, but then they were like, "Okay, fine. I guess we'll just say."
It's all the dumbasses that think explaining things explicitly are the only way things are true.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
They can't glean anything from implications.
Explicitly, like you can't get much more explicit than sitting down and writing a letter explaining your motivation. What more do they want?
They're stupid. Yeah,
they're stupid. They really know. There are people that think that's not actually explaining things. Like they need. They need a character to say something to another character directly, or else it's not canon.
Yeah, but the thing is, RWBY is a paragon, and a paragon hero is kind
hard
of
to write.
By how they affect the other characters.
And RWBY has had a really good effect on Yang.
And for the first 4 volumes, that was really solid writing with RWBY. With like how she changed twice, how she affected Jean, how she affected Yang, even kind of the lip service they play with her impact on Blake, even though they don't do anything with that because Blake and RWBY have like one line of dialogue that they share together.
When has anybody ever said anything about RWBY having any effect on Blake? Because I got into this argument with someone who was like, "Oh, I ship Ladybug," and I was all like, "They've had one scene of dialogue." He was like, "Because RWBY has had a great effect on Blake." When? They've had one line of dialogue together.
They play lip service to it when she's talking to Sun.
What, when she says that she represents purity?
Yeah. There's a couple other like kind of throwaway lines about how that team. How Team RWBY was like a second family to her, and RWBY was a big part of that. And again, they play like really loose lip service to it. But
wait, does Blake say this, or do the writers say this?
Both.
Huh. Okay. Both. That's all right.
Well, and it's kind of subjecture because it's in volume 4 when Sun got hurt, and Blake. She basically, when she's listing off people, she lists RWBY first. As far as
like, what did she describe RWBY as again? I forget.
Purity.
Oh.
Purity.
I mean, once John gets a hold of her, you can't really say that anymore.
I can't think of RWBY that way anymore ever since I read Media's fanfiction.
and it is good to know that I am to blame for that fanfiction.
Also, the only line I can think of Ren saying nowadays, because Ren didn't have any lines in Volume 5, was in exactly Nice's voice. It was Nora's idea.
From Chibi.
Yeah. No, from your fanfiction.
Oh yeah,
You know
I
what
did
I
do
mean?
that.
right.
The yang thing. It was Noah's idea.
Yes.
Oh no,
well,
that's
boys,
terrible.
purity does not necessarily mean chastity. So I'll just leave you
Yeah.
with that. To chew on.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, I just completely lost my train of thought going through that. Good times.
Oh yeah, just
Oh,
talking about
dude,
how they ruined
right.
RWBY this volume, pretty much.
Can we have another of those fan fictions media? High powered, make him do it. Make him do it, high powered. You're the only one who can make him do it.
Okay.
Oh wait, yeah, oh wait. When did the last RWBY got? When did the fan fiction end? Whenever RWBY gave birth, or was at the wedding?
The wedding, wasn't it?
It was the wedding, I think.
was-
No, I know
it
it.
was
I know it had the wedding and the birth because there's a chapter where where the baby is like crawling around and stuff.
Do you have a
I can't
loose
remember.
tie into your other fan fiction with what the baby was named?
Yes. I use the same name. I use Citrine. Anyway, with RWBY, God, I'm winding it back, bringing it back in.
Sorry.
Yeah, RWBY there needed to be a subplot. There needed to be a side quest, even if it was filler. Just something to where RWBY thought that she was accomplishing something, even if it didn't amount to anything. Like,
or she
they're
could
not
have
allowed
accomplished
use
something,
things.
but it
That
could have
would've-
been something stupid, like, "Oh, I just saved a bus full of kittens."
Or you know what? You could have had her kind of make the
You
rounds
use-
of Crow that
use her
time
person-
and, talk to all the people and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
and
kind of
maybe have the villains.
Yeah, imagine
use her
what it would have
personality
been
against
like
her.
if RWBY was the one trying to recruit people instead of Crow.
That probably would have been adorable, actually.
Oh my god, that would have been so
And
much
heartbreaking
better, actually.
at the same time.
Yeah, that would have been
Oh my
way
god!
better.
Like she sees the little girl who lost her mom and then actually has like a moment with her.
Aw.
Like she's just like, let's go play some games. It's like
It would be like
Damage, Rooster Teeth!
that scene. It would be like that scene during the Land of Waves arc in Naruto, where he has that heart to heart with the bridge builder's grandson or whatever.
Yeah. That could. I know
About their mutually dead parents.
Hey, we both have dead parents. That means we should be able to get along. T. Sasuke, who's actively tried to kill Naruto several times in this story.
You just summed up the entirety of Naruto in like a sentence.
No. That is the thesis statement for Naruto right there.
What is it?
Hey, we both have dead parents. We should totally get along.
Yeah, I imagine there would be a bit.
I mean, that's
machismo involved in this.
Okay, cool. So now I don't have to watch Naruto anymore.
I feel like that's basically major part of like the bromance that develops between Naruto and Shikamaru is we both have dead father figures. Actually, no, we both have dead fathers and father figures. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Shikamaru's dad gets fucking nuked at the end of the.
That's right. Yeah.
The fucking series.
Yeah, we have dead senseis and dead fathers. Let's be pals.
Wait, technically Kakashi does die, but then comes back to life.
Yeah. Well, also Jiraiya.
I do want to do some Naruto podcast someday.
We should.
Like that's a fun show to talk about.
Well, I would be willing to do that as well because
Yeah.
I will gladly cede my seat over to Mr. Coop.
Yes.
For that one.
And we'd also need Sock for that. We definitely would need Sock for that one.
We would need the Narusaku voice to be heard.
See, I would make a crack about Volume 5 was so boring that we're talking about everything except Volume 5, except this is what we do with everything anyway.
Kind of, yeah.
We always get sidetracked with either Naruto or Star Wars or both. Or Batman.
This is my first time, so I'm not to blame. It's you guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's because of me. I like drawing comparisons between series.
Yeah.
It's a good mental exercise. I see where you're coming from with it. It's perfectly valid. to compare things, I think.
God. So that's basically it for RWBY. Any other characters we haven't addressed yet?
Can I address
Yang?
Yang is in a weird spot. So
Yes.
things happen to Yang, but then it stops happening.
Yeah, and then she forgives Blake, and I will never forgive her for forgiving Blake so quickly.
I will be overly fair to Rooster Teeth. So I don't expect like there'd be like, oh, we just all see each other again, there's gonna be a confrontation. Now, if there isn't any sort of confrontation over what had happened with like Blake fucking off in volume 6, that's gonna be a serious knock against the entire volume.
Mm-hmm.
No joke.
My number one hope for volume 6, and we're probably gonna do a podcast on this at a different date. My number one hope for volume 6 is that it really early on, like first episode, we get a Team RWBY battle royale, like a training thing that maybe even gets out of hand with like all the emotion that has been boiling up, especially between Blake and Yang. Because you could do that visually, you wouldn't have to do it with any kind of dialogue, you wouldn't even have to write it, but you can like have that as part of the narrative backbone of what is otherwise kind of a filler fight, like just another rendition of like the food fight, but with actual weapons and training and stuff. And it would be a really good, like that's a really good idea for a scene that I have.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah, that would work.
And not only that, but it would
also
help the power scaling.
Yeah, Yang could take her frustrations out on Blake leaving on Blake, literally. Or she could also take it out by, turning on the vibrate function with her robot arm too. So I mean,
blowing off some steam.
Also. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the freezer burn combo.
I think a lot of the kind of bad with her kind of involves Raven too, because like Raven's bad kind of seeps over to her from a lot of the interactions they have. So the most egregious example is basically when in their final confrontation, she basically explains to her that her plan is stupid. That's all I can essentially boil that conversation down to. And Raven is like, you know what? My plan this whole time actually was kind of stupid, and she just runs off.
Yeah.
And
that's like really accurate.
Yeah, and admittedly, like you might say, hey, hanging a lampshade is better than a bare bulb, but it was very jarring to me that would be the way that would go down.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I was thinking from the beginning that Raven's plan was stupid. I just didn't think the writers knew that, so I didn't think that they would call it out like that. And it actually...
Yeah, that's a weird moment of clarity from the writer where they're like no joke, like upon like actually thinking back on it, it's like this, that is a weird moment of like sanity that has come out from our writers where it's like, yeah, Raven, your plan's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing of it is it makes you think, okay, hold on. If they knew the whole time, why did they give her a stupid plan in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they didn't. Yeah, and they didn't
her seem dumb
with it to prove that it was poor. Like, it didn't actually play out the way when you purposely give somebody a bad idea. It didn't play out that way.
No, she just realizes it's bad and suffers no negative consequences from it because she realizes literally as she is carrying it out, hey, maybe better not to do this.
Yeah, but between that entire plan, the voice acting, and the fact that that's the same episode where they stand for like an entire minute while the Fox brothers are frozen, is why episode 9 of this volume is probably actually the worst.
You know, how many times have we said that this episode is probably actually the worst?
We can't make up our minds.
Media. It's too hard to decide which one's actually the worst.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean by that? Is it the one that is the most pointless? Because that's episode 5. Is it the one that broke you? Because that's episode 13. Is it the most disappointing one? Because that's the finale. Is it the one that is the messiest direction-wise? Because that's episode 11. Is it the one with the most awful, unrepentant, bad stuff in it? Because that would be episode 9. Or is it the one that is the most kind of boring and filler-ish? Because that's episode 7.
It's a Rubik's Cube.
Oh my god, yeah, it's a Rubik's Cube of fail. It's like you're doing a Rubik's Cube, and then each side says you lose once you finish it.
Yeah. Well, no, you don't. You never even finish it.
You never
because all
finish
the
it.
squares are a slightly different color.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to actually do it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's really accurate with how bad all that is. God damn it. I'm like depressed laughing right now.
That's the best. That's the best laughter.
Welcome to my world for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And mine.
Anyway. Anything else we need to talk about?
Can we talk about the lack of Renora? Because I really do need to address that again.
Go for it.
Yes.
Sure.
Because I feel like, and you guys can add anything to this, but I feel like this is another, and it does go along with what a lot of what we've been saying. It's they had this great momentum going, and then they just stopped. And the thing is, I remember because I still remember back to over a year ago where High Power and I were talking about Volume 4 it got to a point where we're like, most of us were like, I really don't think anything Renora is going to happen this volume, dude. You might have to wait till next volume. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I probably am going to have to wait until next volume. But Hyper and I were still like, they're sitting closer to each other than they used to. Something's going to happen. And then sure enough, something actually did happen. And it was really fucking good. I still probably, after we do, because the next podcast I think we're doing is the ranking all the episodes in RWBY podcast. Which I'm looking forward to and not looking forward to at the same time. But
I'm looking forward to it.
My it's just having to watch all the bad stuff again is going to be painful. But I am overall looking very forward to that podcast. I still at this point I believe that my number 1 episode will still be Kuroyori, because that was just really well done. It was cute. It had meaning behind it too. It wasn't just cute for cuteness' sake. They have a real relationship. In many ways, the most connected and meaningful relationship in the show. And they did it really well. And then they kind of cockblocked us at the end with the handhold instead of the kiss. I don't understand. And now that makes even less sense because they haven't touched it since. That's the big problem. Is like, okay, so they do that. It's like, so
and now the problem is if we see them kissing, we're just like, okay, cool. Where did this come from?
Yeah, now it was like you had the momentum of that. It's like. It was very well done. Like their relationship overall has been handled extremely well. It's not mostly a focal point. It's a focal point every once in a while. And when it is, it's done very well. And when it's not a focal point, they're just really cute, which is very similar to how they did April and Andy in Parks and Rec, which a lot of people, not just me, really, really think that couple was.
Uh-oh. You still there? Oh, not again. Hello?
In that show, or tried even a hint of anything.
And they had more than ample opportunity with all
they
of the
had
downtime.
so many. Yeah, there's tons of opportunity for this where literally all the characters are off in rooms and different areas sitting by themselves and talking to each other. And they don't have one goddamn scene with Ren and Nora, which
the thing
is already bad, but it's even worse with what just happened in the previous volume, especially considering that they cock-blocked them. Where it's like, you gotta address this at some point. You're making some sort of progress, and now then you just stop it completely. And you can't say that they just put all relationships on hold, because they didn't, because we do have some decent. There's a few decent Black Sun scenes.
Yes, there
and
are
especially
I'm fine with that, and I'm good with that. I'm not saying that I'm not bitter against like Black Sun specifically. I'm glad we got those scenes. Yeah, I'm glad we got those scenes. I'd be complaining if we didn't get those too. But my point is, why did we get those and then not get anything with Renora? That's the thing that doesn't make sense to me.
Like, here's the thing with Black Sun too. Also, like at the end of this volume, Sun literally wraps his tail around Blake, and he's like, "Okay, go talk to your shitty friends, you shitty kitty."
Yeah.
Well, they're good friends.
Like,
she's the shitty friend.
She's the shitty friend. Yeah.
So here's the thing though. Like, you would think, like, in this world where, like, you know, if you wrap your tail around someone, that's like more intimate than hand holding. I would consider, at least.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. The thing
that was, by the way, son, that was smooth as fuck. Good job.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. The thing with Ren and Nora is, I think what they thought was, at the end of the last volume, they were like, okay, we did that, and then they just dusted their hands off, and they were like, we don't need to revisit that at all. It's already been done.
That's what I'm worried about.
That's what I'm worried about, because they didn't kiss. That's not... And even then, if they did kiss, they need to be acting more coupley now.
If they really wanted to dust their hands off, they should have kissed, and then like maybe their hands are holding like whatever they're sitting down, listening to an exposition dump. Then there we go, we're satisfied.
Then I'm fine. They should still. It's still a kind of criminal that they're not in it more, because I still find them very charming, even without all the coupley implications, because I still find them charming and funny. And
they have a really good dynamic.
Yeah, they have an amazing dynamic. That's why they. That's why. Even on RWBY Republic, which is mostly full of shit posters and dumbasses, they won by a landslide the most popular couple, even over the butthurt Pyrrha and Jean fans.
Yeah, nobody does not like this.
Nobody dislikes Renora.
Yeah,
and so
I'm actually surprised that the writers didn't put more of it in.
Yeah, there's no reason not to put them in the damn show. Okay.
And I mean, we know that the fandom has a lot of influence over what actually goes in to the show.
But Miles and Carrie are terrible at knowing what the fandom actually seems to
wants, and what
they need. But
and what they need versus what they actually want.
But this one thing in particular, everybody wants it, everybody likes it. You will not hear a bad word said about it, and they must be aware of this, and yet nothing. Flatline. Dead air.
Yeah.
What is the deal?
Yeah, and that's just something that just pisses me off as somebody who specifically likes. That was one of the things that really had me hyped about that volume, the previous volume, because that was one of the things they did best in Volume 4, to be honest. And it's one of the things that kind of carried me through parts of the other show to even become an actual fan of the show. And, you know, they're not that Weiss, basically. Weiss is really at this point, she's the only thing carrying me through the show, because they still haven't actively ruined her yet, thank God.
I think I might have, I don't know how all of you guys specifically got into it, but I'm actually a day oneer. I've been here since the beginning, and I've just kept along with it.
I started watching.
Let's stop here. Like, let's all talk about how we actually got into this hobby. Yeah. So, Coop, you state this, and then we'll just go down the row.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, obviously, I've been into Rooster Teeth in general for a long time. You know, since the first days of Red versus Blue. Back when I was but a stripling.
So you really are day oneer in Rooster Teeth in general, then.
Yeah, and I don't keep up with a lot of the behind the scenes stuff like you guys do, but I generally I've been watching their content for a long time. And so this when this came out, I was remember at this point, RWBY was kind of going a little bit downhill. And so I was there was a bit of trepidation about it. I was like, oh, they're going to kind of like split the work that they're doing on this and the kind of split focus. So I didn't know what would happen if to this previous show that I had been watching for a long time, and whether or not this new one would come out and be okay or anything. So I watch it, and I'm not impressed, but it's not exactly nothing is offensive to me because I understand that they're trying something new and there's a lot of kinks to be worked out. And the first volume, it's not good. There's a lot of problems with it. The Jean arc, I think, stands out still as being one of the worst things to ever be put to film.
Yeah, it's pretty goddamn awful.
But but I saw potential, and so that's what stuck with it. And also because I'm able to kind of separate my criticism of something from my enjoyment of it. That's how. I mean, like, I would still consider myself a fan of Dragon Ball after all of these years, even though I
I'm the same. I'm the same way.
Same here. I think that's a lot of people. Everyone knows about the flaws in Dragon Ball, but they still enjoy it.
Yeah.
Except for me. So, I stay the fuck away from that shit.
So here's whatever. I don't know if am I cutting in?
Go ahead.
So basically, I did watch Red versus Blue. I remember my first exposures to Red versus Blue was firing up the old school. I don't know if y'all remember this, Google videos, and watching entire seasons of Red versus Blue at my buddy's house. So I was the first exposure to HIV that I had. I mean, RWBY was my first year at no, it was my second year at Philmont that I worked there, and at my second year at Philmont, dude, I can't even remember if it was my first or second. No, it was my second year because that would have been. Volume 3 was what, 2015, right? 2016?
Volume 1 was 2013.
Yeah, Volume 1 was 2013. It was whenever Volume 2 was out on. It was it was Volume 1 and Volume 2 was out, so it had to be 2014 before Volume 4 hit before Volume 3 hit before Volume 3 started. So I remember basically binge watching the entirety of Volumes 1 and Volumes 2 at Philmont with a bunch of dudes. And I remember getting really excited at the end of Volume 1 whenever I saw Emerald, and I literally burst out. It's like, yay, brown anime girl! Like, literally said that out loud. And then, no joke, I forgot that RWBY even existed until I came across a video for the beginning of Volume 3, and then I saw a bunch of Jake one-man band's theory videos and a few other theory videos, and then that was like the nail in the coffin for me. And then it's history. And then I started a Facebook text chat group, and then I started the Discord, and then next thing you know, I had the crazy idea of like, hey, let's do a podcast with media, and then here we go, and now we've got, probably what would be considered the premier RWBY podcast that is done. That is an actual podcast, not like what Fat Man Falling does, which I feel is different than a podcast.
Yeah,
that's the crazy thing is I looked it up. We are actually, in general, the most viewed podcast about RWBY right now.
Wow.
Yes. We have the best viewership out of all of them.
Which isn't saying that much, but it's true. It is true.
I can't wait to put that on my tombstone.
We had the best RWBY podcast.
Best podcast for this one shitty show.
So, okay, media, it's your turn.
Hey, you skipped me, yo.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's okay. Wait until after
your
you.
Origin story, dude.
He just knows I'm going to talk too long, so he was being strategical about it. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. No, I started off because I had watched some Red versus Blue, and I kind of liked it. I definitely liked a lot of what I read with Red versus Blue, and I think at the time I was very into the Let's Play channel back when either Ray had just left or right before Ray had left, whatever it was. I don't know. As soon as Ray left, I didn't watch it anymore, basically. Not just because Ray left, it just a bunch of stuff at the same time. It got worse. Lindsay's a great voice actress, but she's so annoying in Let's Plays. She's unbearable. And so that I saw the trailer because my brother and I had been into Red versus Blue, and we like, oh, this looks pretty cool. Actually, this looks interesting. Like I like the fight style, like the fighting, the big giant scythe and all that shit, and the the stereotypical black and red angsty teenage character kind of archetype thing looked cool, so I thought it'd be interesting, and I watched the first volume. I think I just watched the entire first volume after it had already come out or something like that, and I thought it was pretty good, and I just didn't do anything much with it. And then volume 2 came out, and I watched volume 2, thought it was all right, and I still like the character designs, and I like some of the characters. And then volume 3 came out, and I was like, all right, well, it's a good time to binge watch the last 2 volumes and then rewatch and then watch this. So I did this thing where in one day I binged watched the first 2 volumes and then the entirety of the end of volume 3. So I waited until the end of volume 3 before I watched the whole thing. So I binged the first 3 volumes, I rewatched the first 2, and then watching the entirety of volume 3. Had never seen any of it before, and I watched it, and then I was like, and so having gone through the first 2 seasons and then the 3rd season right in a row like that, and with how overall, much improved volume 3 was over volumes 1 and 2, I was hooked. That's when I got hooked, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Well, then, I want to watch this.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been into it pretty much as long as I have. Then,
yeah,
almost.
So I've watched it since the beginning. I've only just been a big fan since volume 3, and that's when I joined the Facebook group. So I joined RWBY Republic around that time. I joined the now thankfully dead Jake One Man Band Facebook group.
Oh yes, I should mention that I am
RIP
the overall community. Yeah, the reason I actually kind of became more involved in it is specifically because this most recent volume has become especially egregious to me, and I wanted to voice my opinions about it with light-minded individuals.
I started off with voicing my likes of the show, and I really enjoyed it. And then that's when the Discord server started. First it was the Facebook chat group. So I was one of the OG members of the Facebook chat group. I remember that because I remember talking to High Powered about it.
Yeah, I remember getting the approval for it, and I didn't get the approval. I just got the approval to advertise for it to help keep spoilers down in the Theory Facebook group, which I may or may not have had a hand in getting it deleted.
We all did. We all had a hand in that.
Yeah, I definitely did.
All of us did. All of us, the people here, are basically
except Coop.
And I will wear that as a badge of honor, by the way.
I should have just.
I'm still.
Should have just what?
It might have been able to take charge of.
I'm still.
What's his face should have been such a censorious cunt.
You mean Jake?
But no, it wasn't even his. The one who took down the post.
Gotcha. Yeah, you guys still there?
I don't know. I
haven't seen him since.
Okay.
Anyway, so
have we told that? I wonder how much of that story we've told.
We've alluded
to it. I think one day we will actually have to tell that story.
I will tell the story eventually, though, at my own choosing, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know about it because I've been hanging around with you guys a lot and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Maybe
story
the
for
world will one day know.
Yeah.
But
my love of the show has been waning because of how bad this was. So I'm not as, like I said, I haven't watched a single episode of the new season of Chibi yet because I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
so
Let's. I think media needs to get his how he got into it.
Oh yeah. I'm so sorry, dude.
So I first got into Rooster Teeth. I think it was my freshman year in college. So this would have been like 2013. It would have had to been 2013.
Mhm.
Because I got into it through Rage Quit, and
Okay.
from
Michael
there
Jones.
I kind of rediscovered Red versus Blue thanks to someone who was down the hall from me when I was living on campus. He was a big Rooster Teeth fan. I don't know if he still is now because I haven't talked to him in forever, but he kind of hooked me on Red versus Blue, which I had seen a couple of them. I had seen a couple episodes of it when they were first coming out in like 2003, 2004. But it wasn't until like then that I actually like watched the entire series, and I liked it a lot. I had my issues with.
You still there?
Yeah. You cut
Yeah.
off.
Where did I cut off at?
You liked it a lot, but you still had some issues.
Oh, and yeah, and then RWBY was gone. RWBY had just started at that time, and I caught up with that. In the first episode that I watched new, I believe is the first step part. It's either the first step part 2 or one of the Emerald Forest episodes. I just know it was during that whole like initiation arc bit. And so I kept up with it from there, mostly through YouTube when they would come out on YouTube, and sometimes I would wait for a couple episodes to come out and then binge watch it, catch back up. But then I got really hooked on it halfway through Volume 2 with the episode Burning the Candle, which something about that episode and what got revealed in that episode and how it was handled in that episode really just inspired me like very few shows
It was
have.
a good episode. I think everybody liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's the whole reason Bumblebee even is a thing.
Yeah, well,
that episode was literally, Bumblebee
was already a thing. I mean, that episode came out after the ship name call-outs with the mech fight. So after that, I was kind of like hooked on it, and that's when I started watching it actually on the Rooster Teeth website. That was when I got Rooster Teeth first. Or, well, not when, but then come Volume 3, I got Rooster Teeth first, so I could watch it like day one. By then, I was at Soul. Yeah, by then I was by the beginning of Volume... Or no, by the end of Volume 2, I was at Soul. Because I remember I was watching Volume 3 from my dorm room at Soul. So that would have been 2015.
Okay.
Like into 2015, beginning of 2016. You know, I've been watching it ever since, and from the inspiration ideas I got, I kind of built my fan fiction around it, and I also built my YouTube channel around it.
And
we got some mixed feelings about that.
From there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Is it my turn? Or?
Yep.
Yeah. You're the last one, actually.
Yeah. So kind of similar, actually. So I started by at first I just started watching Red versus Blue, and so I was enjoying Red versus Blue, but I was trying to look for something else to get into, and so I had seen advertisements and stuff like that for RWBY, but I was just kind of like, it just looks really silly and childish and doesn't look all that interesting. And so finally I kind of kicked the bucket and decided to start watching it come, I believe it was a couple months before Volume 3 came out. Started watching it. I was like, oh wow, that was pretty fun to watch. It was pretty cool. And so I got into it, and I got into Team Theory and stuff like that, and so I started hanging out there, and I started, looking into that, and at first I was one of those people who thought, the show was perfect and could do no wrong. And but gradually, as I started talking more to you guys, talking to media and high powered and stuff like that, and actually looking into it, also as I was studying criticism at school, critical analysis in college, I started, seeing a lot more of these issues, but I still found myself like enjoying it, and I thought the show was actually getting better.
Wasn't that literally one of your majors or something?
Yeah, my major was in critical analysis. And
don't argue with this guy. He's pretty much always right. I'm not kidding. It's true. He's pretty much always right.
Not always, but
in this show, at least I know.
Yeah, and being like part of this group and being and kind of hanging with you guys and being able to talk about this stuff with you guys was a big part of actually what made me like want to get into it more, was being able to look at it and see, its potential. And that's eventually what it evolved into. What I ended up really liking about the show come like Volume 4 and stuff like that, when I was, as I started becoming a little more jaded about it, was I started realizing like, okay, at least it has a lot of potential, and that's what I really like about it. And with Volume 4, I thought, hey, it's starting to tap into some of that potential. It's starting to get there. Mm-hmm. And then Volume 5 happened. So
and that's similar with me too, because it's like Volume 3 was promising, Volume 4 really started to go in the right direction, and then Volume 5 just like, oh my god.
That's a common through line with a lot of people that I talk to.
Yeah,
is that people, the people who stick with it, they're either the blind fanboy lunatics, or they're the people who still see the potential there. But know that the flaws are
or gluttons for punishment.
I mean, I'm honestly.
I think we're slowly becoming the gluttons for punishment.
Yeah, because I'm honestly at this point, I'm mostly just here for you guys. To be perfectly honest, like I enjoy talking with everybody, and I enjoy the content that the people here create, and I enjoy being part of the podcast, and I enjoy shitting on the show with you guys. And at this point, that's mostly what I'm here for.
Well, I'm my own man. And I would probably stick around if it wasn't for you guys. I like your company, don't get me wrong, and it does make it a little bit easier to bear. But I'm ultimately a lone wolf, and I would keep on walking down the dusty trail of life on my own if it wasn't for anybody else. Even so,
I'd probably be one of those people that comes in and starts watching it again at like the end of. Like at the end of Volume 6, if it weren't for the podcast.
Yeah, see, that's probably what I would be. I'd probably still watch it and keep giving it another shot every year, but I wouldn't be I would not be participating in anything, and I wouldn't be keeping up to date if it wasn't for this group. Basically, at this point.
Oh man, so let's do some. I feel like we could wrap up the podcast.
Yeah.
We could do some predictions, but I feel like we can honestly just wrap it up, and we'll save the.
I think we just wrap it up because we could do that in another. That's got to be.
I like the predictions part. That's my favorite part of the other podcasts. Don't leave me out on my first time.
Okay, fair enough then.
All right, everyone will say their predictions.
Yeah,
real quick.
What major things are going to happen?
Yeah,
like pick 3 or 4 major things that are going to happen.
All right, Coop, you get to go
can
first.
Start, Coop. Yeah.
Okay, major things that are going to happen. Obviously, they're going to Atlas. This will take probably 4 episodes before they actually get there. There will be a conflict with Papa Schnee. It will not be satisfying. Nothing will really get resolved. Maybe they retcon the Yang Forgiving Blake thing. Maybe they don't. Who cares at this point? Action. Tyrion will show up. He'll be cool. He'll have a cool robot tail probably, or a grim one. Whichever type of thing they decide to replace it with. I'm going robot, but flip a coin.
Whichever one floats Salem's penis.
Yeah. His action scene will either be really great or extremely disappointing. There's no in between on that.
I'm leaning towards the second one, unfortunately.
Yeah, he will only get one of them though. There will not be multiple fights with him in it. because I think they know better than to use their greatest asset too much and kind of water him down, if you will. Let me think. They'll find the relic, obviously. Will they be able to maintain possession of it? That's
a big question.
Bit up in the air. That I would say that if the writers are listening to the criticism, then no. If they are not, then yes, and this becomes a Legend of Zelda MacGuffin collecting quest, basically.
Oh, you're right. That's why I'm so sad.
That brings well. Here's the thing, though. So just because, let's say, if Team RWBY loses the relic, that doesn't mean that Salem gets it. Maybe, Ironwood is like, oh baby, check out all the cool things I could do with this.
Becomes like a secondary villain.
Yeah, well, that's something that everyone's kicking around, is that like Atlas will become the secondary villain, and then we get World War II Electro Boogaloo all over again.
I might not object to that, but yeah. Sorry.
These secondary villains never work out, though.
Yeah.
That feel when Jock comes in to save the day by mitigate, starting the peace talks with everyone, and Jock becomes Jock becomes the good guy. And we all hate him for it, but he actually ends up doing good things, even though he's a fucking asshole. He just wants to protect his profit margins.
Yeah. What are you? Do you guys have any predictions that I didn't lay out there, or anything?
Well, it's Dude's turn next.
Yeah.
I'm so jaded that I don't really think I'm gonna. It's hard for me to say anything. I think.
Just agree with me. I'm right.
I'm just gonna agree with Coop on this, to be honest, and I'm thinking it is just gonna turn into a MacGuffin quest, and they're gonna do some Jacques and Whitley stuff, and they're probably gonna nerf them because the fans didn't like them, and even though I actually think they were kind of getting pretty interesting in Volume 4, just saying.
Yeah.
So, and also, where the fuck is Winter? And also, where the fuck is Renora? And I don't know if we're going to really get much of either of those things. We'll probably get some sort of Winter at that point, but it'll probably be disappointing at that point. Because, the way they've made us wait for everything's becoming disappointing at this point. So fuck it. I don't care.
So this is my main big plot points is going to be, so this is how I would summarize the volume. So the first few episodes are going to be a mini volume 4 of them getting to Atlas. There's a small part of me that then wants them to be yeah, we're flying to Atlas, and then they get shot down by a SAM missile, and then they land in Mantle. That'd be fun. Because, Atlas just got done building their wall.
Yeah, but see, that would involve them having a race against time to try to get to Atlas before the other guys do get the relic. Would involve stakes and exciting, so that's not what's going to happen.
God, what? Okay, so it's that potentially we could maybe see I feel if they ever once Salem is defeated and they want to keep the show going, have Atlas become the bad guy, they could probably sow the seeds for that in Volume 6. I could see for some reason, maybe, for example, the knowledge of the relic is leaked out, and then there's some, weird geopolitical shit going on with the fact that a bunch of random teenagers, a drunk person, and then a kid are in control of a relic of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially, because
Yeah, but that would require, world building and having a consistent setting and stuff
True. So. True. In all honesty, I kind of hope what it is Jockshny is using the criminal underground to get his dust out of Atlas. There'll be a whole thing over that. Jock maybe tries to dethrone Ironwood of his power, maybe runs for office or something. I kind of don't want I don't want Weiss to regain control of the Snee Dust Company.
I really don't. I really don't want that.
Yeah, that should not happen until the absolute end of the series.
If it happens
After
at
that-
all.
Yeah, because after that, nothing. There's two ways they can go. They can either have her take over at the end of the, or they can have her not take over but realize that and stuff.
Maybe give Yang a romantic male love interest. Who knows?
Anything's possible. Like we know they love their superfluous character.
Yeah,
I mean-
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the question though. It's like, whenever they go to Atlas, it's like, what will facilitate them fighting things that are... I want more Grimm being fought in this next volume, and that's kind of what makes me... And as shitty as it sounds, it kind of what makes me hope where it's like... They're like the bad guys are doing stuff in like Vacuo. And
yeah.
honestly, here's the other thing too. I just want Dr. Watts' killbots. That's what I really want. So, like, on no joke, if the stinger episode of this volume was Dr. Watts getting off of a ship, and he's like, man, it sure does feel good to be home, as he, like, puts his hands on his hips, smiling proudly, as he, like, steps off the plane, and then gets immediately arrested by ICE and then thrown out of the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that going to do it?
But that's basically it. I
Okay.
need to finish off my beer before I go to bed.
All right. Who's next?
I think it's
Is
media.
it me?
Yeah, it's media.
Yeah, go for
So my main predictions for this volume, I'm gonna try doing something different. I don't think they're gonna make it to Atlas this volume. I actually do, but I would not be surprised if they don't.
I'll be honest, media. I think they won't even get to Atlas's one because the way that the Q&As have been going on and the way they've been talking about it, it doesn't sound like they're going to make it to Atlas's volume.
Well, that's
maybe
a
not
distinct
Atlas City.
possibility.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I think they're gonna get hit really hard by some Grimm early on. And
Oh, that's
crash,
right! The Grimmer in this show!
Crash,
Oh my fucking god! I did it
Yeah.
again!
and they're gonna crash
Sorry.
and mantle. I think
Yeah.
they're going to crash and mantle, and have to
Well-
hoof it from Atlas from there.
Yes.
Man, that would actually be really
While-
good.
While also, and it'll be better than trying to walk to Mistral in Volume 4 because Atlas, because that whole continent is basically freaking ice, so they have to be like really slow, really careful, and actually like. I want like Survivor Man, like
Right.
Brian's Winter.
Bear Grylls.
Yeah.
There's going to be a bunch of piss drinking in this volume.
What's that book?
Halfway through, Jean's got a bunch of stubble and stuff like that.
like Hatchet or Hatchet or
Hell yeah.
Brian's Winter.
Oh god, is it bad that I want to see John rocking like a constant 5 o'clock shadow?
No, it is
Yeah,
not.
that'd be dope.
That would be
dope.
badass.
John would be slaying so much puss it wouldn't even be funny.
Can we get maybe if Ren finally grows that goatee that his dad has,
Yeah.
he'll finally make out with Nora.
Yep.
Son grows a mustache like
He'll finally
his junior detective.
Yes.
And that will finally be the thing that breaks Blake because to her that'll make him more patriarchal, and so she'll break out with him, and then she'll be with Yang.
And then she'll bust out the 12-inch double-ended dildo.
Yep.
Okay, Tom. Let's not get too much Tumblr-ish here.
Yeah.
Never.
Other predictions. I think Tyrion's gonna come back. I really hope we get that like Team RWBY fight training with emotional subtext from Yang. And I think we're going to get some. I think this is the volume where we're going to get some Team Stark flashbacks, because something that they didn't do, something that they pretended to do in this volume but didn't actually do was Silver Eyes. The whole Silver Eyes thing amounted to nothing.
Yeah.
It did
As
nothing.
did
It did
everything.
absolutely nothing
Mm-hmm.
except remind the people like, oh, remember this is still a thing that exists in the show
Yeah.
that nobody has talked about for some reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I agree with you on kind of on the point of they won't immediately make it to Atlas, which is why I accounted for that in my first prediction, where I said it would be probably halfway in before they or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like the rest of the stuff, that's an extremely optimistic take. I was kind of going for a more realistic
Yeah.
one with mine, but I like
Yeah,
yours
well,
too.
I wanted to be different from the rest of y'all.
Yeah.
No,
So
it's good. We can't
Yeah.
just have one side of it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
it?
Other than that, I don't think we're gonna get much else.
No, I don't think so. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I don't think we're
Yeah,
gonna.
I think we've already covered like everything, all the major stuff that's gonna happen
Oh.
in the next volume.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, I don't think you've said anything.
Yeah. No. So I talked about in the last podcast what I think they should do, what I would do, and so I was very optimistic there. So now I'm going to be a little bit more pessimistic here.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get to Atlas. I think they're going to keep giving. Maybe I'm being a little too pessimistic here, but I think they're going to keep acting like Blake never left the team, like she doesn't deserve any kind of consequences. And I think they're going to keep putting way too much focus on her by having her showing up what goes on in the Schnee dust mines, and Blake's going to, and they're going to
It's going to be a rehash of Volume 1.
Yeah, and they're going to, it gets worse. They're going to basically have Blake try and get the team to convince them to try and do something about that. And it's basically going to be the exact same thing that the White Fang did, except but that is never going to be addressed. They are never going to point out the fact that Blake has basically become what she was fighting at the beginning. They're not going to talk about that because Blake can do no wrong. And Jacques, I think you might have nailed it there. He's going to be running for an office trying to overthrow Ironwood, and they're going to use the whole thing to be a giant, ridiculous allegory for Trump. And it's going to be really uncomfortable, and it's going to suck. And the villains are going to keep sucking, and Jacques...
and just be destroying my soul right now. Oh my god.
I'm sorry. And this is worst case scenario, but I'm really scared that this is what they're going to do. And
I'm really starting to hate allegory in films and television.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think they're gonna do that.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I can totally.
Yeah, they're basically gonna.
Here's the thing. Out of all the ones that everybody said, this is the one that's the most likely to happen.
But yeah,
that's the sad part about this.
Yeah, and then everyone else is just gonna fade into the background and not even matter. Even Weiss somehow is gonna stop mattering because it's gonna become Blake versus Jacques because Blake's the important one to these people.
Oh god. And you know what? I promise to everybody listening, because I'm sure most people hate me, but I promise that I will stick around through all of that just so I can talk shit on all of it.
I will put money on that being exactly what goes down.
I actually would too. I would honestly put $100 right now on that being basically what happens in the next volume.
And yeah, I think there's going to be a bunch of little stuff, but I really do. This is my fear. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic here. I'm not normally this pessimistic, but my job right now. But no, I really could see them just sacrificing the main plot and the real plot and making this just one long political satire with Blake as the new main character, or the main character again, who can do no wrong, even though she's being a complete and total hypocrite.
So basically Ironheart.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen Ironheart.
But
it's exactly what you just described.
Yeah. But
all right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is your show. If you want to give the optimistic side, and You know, you
My optimistic one was in the last volume. The villains come back, kick ass. RWBY deals with the challenges of being a leader again, and Tyrion becomes Jean's new nemesis. Like, this is me being optimistic about things. Blake spends the entire volume trying to make it up to Yang, trying to make things up to Yang. Sun helps her out. Renora just happens because it needs to just happen. And Weiss, and a big part of the volume is Weiss dealing with her family issues, and Whitley becomes a more interesting and a more sympathetic character, but also joins up with Salem as the new, like, more sympathetic villain, killing his father. That's me being optimistic.
Man, that sounds amazing. God damn it. I know none of that's gonna happen. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway,
you really got us all with the one before that, though.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring you all down, but
no, it's sad because you're probably right.
Yeah.
No, it's so true, which is why it hits so deep. That's the reason why.
Yeah. I think we're ready to call it at night, because that's.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. You're probably right. I don't apologize for that.
Okay. All right then.
Don't apologize for a show that has sapped out all the goodwill it built up.
In one volume. One volume. Wow, that's all it took to make me this jaded.
Yeah. That's how bad this volume was, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can shut it down after this.
Who's gonna do their plugs first?
I think it's just you, Media. I've been slacking. Yeah.
I'm Mediocrity 4. I am still technically indisposed right now. They basically just temporarily summoned my my wandering spirits into this podcast. Which is why I'm gonna have this up as soon as I can, as soon as I get to like a computer that I can upload it to.
Okay.
As soon as we're moved in to this new place, which we're already approved and stuff, we're just waiting on the inspection and stuff. I will, within days, have my honest look at the villains. I will have more chapters of RWBY on Home, which I am still actually working on in this purgatorial plane I exist in. And yeah, I'm going to have a lot more.
Yeah.
A lot more silence, apparently.
Yeah. Well,
a lot more content.
Okay. I'll go next. Coop, you know, join the Discord. Hang out with me. I'm in there all day and just messing around, pretty much.
Nice.
So you'll probably catch me. And I am working on my own story. I'd love to bounce ideas off of anybody who's interested. You know, and the link to the doc is up on the Discord. If you join the Discord, you will eventually find it. It's down in the fanfic section. Original, but you know, it's I'm just a really chill dude who likes hanging out with people. So
cool.
That's
you sound like you're giving everybody your dating profile.
Yes, please join the Discord.
Yep.
If any women would like to talk to me, yes.
And they also like memes. If they like memes, that helps, right?
Well, who doesn't?
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's an excellent point right there.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm gonna try and get back to my YouTube channel. Gonna try and get back to working on that. Recently started a new job, which the hours are terrible on. But yeah, so I am going to make an effort to get back on doing that. So, all right. And is that everything, or?
Yeah, I have nothing to plug. I'm
that's it.
third of the way through my original book, but I don't have anything to plug about yet right now. So,
all right. Well, good night, everybody. I guess. Yep. Thank you for tuning in.